Let me state up front that I did not operate on my own. I had a fine collection of talent locally in St. Kitts to put on such a conference, and of course with the assistance of UNESCO Regional Cluster Office in Kingston, as well as other sectors of UNESCO. This is a UNESCO-organized conference, and St. Kitts and Nevis is the proud host through its National Commission for UNESCO. The theme of this conference is Climate Change Adaptation in the Caribbean, Ethics, Science, and Policies. Let us take a look at the back of the program, and you will see we have a wonderful scenery there of St. Kitts. That is our Southeast Peninsula. But a picture I would like to have you perceive at this moment is one of the Earth itself, the way an astronaut will look at the Earth. The astronaut refers to the Earth as home. Back to Earth, we see political divides, various political relationships, wars, environmental degradation, a constantly changing surface and atmosphere, and perhaps a dysfunctional home. We have brought here today politicians, earth scientists, and social scientists, all here in one room, and I guarantee you that it may affect the thermometer. While our Earth is rapidly changing due to natural factors, anthropogenic factors also contribute to such change. Indeed, it is a complexity of interrelationships that renders it difficult to fully understand. The focus of this conference is not about the usual platforms, information platforms that is, regarding what causes climate change and who is more responsible than whom. The focus is about value, knowledge, and action. Value in terms of ethics, knowledge in terms of scientific information, and policies in terms of action. It is one Earth, and UNESCO, before drafting its ethical principles in relation to climate change, is providing the forum to be regionally inclusive, and that is why we are here as a Caribbean, together here as a team. The Caribbean, with a unified vision, will have the opportunity to enter into international negotiations. Collectively, we must respond to the effects of climate change on our society. It does not only impact ecosystems, but also life and livelihoods of humankind. It affects all types of economic activities, food security, fresh water supply, public health, national security, and the list goes on, and the very fabric of our societies. I assert that every human being contributes to climate change. We are all consumers. Whether we drive automobiles as a solo driver, or we ride the bus, or if we simply walk, it is simply the consumption of any goods and services that will render us contributors of climate change. Obviously, there are differential responsibilities, and so too there are differential vulnerabilities. If we are to approach anywhere close to formulating a social policy, we must act collectively. The debate of who or what causes climate change can go on, and rightfully so. But today, we have the power in our hands to shape the destiny of this generation and that of future generations. I read a book as a teenager, not too long ago, entitled, "People Come and Go, but Earth Abides." I thank you. Now I would call upon the Honourable Nigel Cardy for some welcome remarks.
Ladies and gentlemen, climate change, if left unaddressed or poorly addressed, will be the most life-altering factor of our generation. In fact, the extent to which we grapple successfully with the reality of climate change may very well determine how long we continue to inhabit this planet Earth that has accommodated us for millions of years. There is perhaps no other phenomenon that threatens us on the same scale and that requires such consistency and coordination of action from each and every one of us to ensure our collective security and survival. In this Caribbean region, and certainly here in St. Kitts and Nevis, we believe that climate change has already begun to affect us in many aspects of our existence. We have had to divert already scarce economic resources to repair damage to our roads, our agricultural sector, our tourism infrastructure, damage caused by extreme or certainly atypical weather patterns. And whilst far removed from the specific context in which the United Nations was founded a little over 65 years ago, the issue of climate change and all the direct consequences that flow from it have the potential to undermine peace and security in our countries and our world. People can live in peace only if they have a comfortable place in which to live, to work, to do business, and to prosper, and if they have a real chance of securing an even better place in the world for succeeding generations. How we deal with the issue of climate change will test our level of generational commitment and care. This, to my mind, is one of the most fundamental facets of the set of ethical principles surrounding climate change, and Caribbean peoples have to be alive to this. Right here at home, we have motivated interest in and research on how climate change affects tourism, agriculture, and other important economic sectors. Our graduate students, such as Randolph Hamilton, developmental organizations such as the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, private sector development partners, all share a stake and have made commitments towards advocating for dealing with the issues arising out of climate change. I want to say a very special thank you to UNESCO for its vision and foresight in recognizing the need for support for the discussion of ethical principles related to climate change as one of the key areas for consensus building and policy formulation, and for taking deeply into consideration the huge stake that Caribbean societies have in these global matters. Moreover, we here in St. Kitts and Nevis are highly honored, though not surprised at all, for the confidence that you have so liberally reposed in us in having the government of St. Kitts and Nevis and the National Commission for UNESCO play the role of hosts for a meeting of such importance and centrality to the resolution of the concerns of climate change. I want to say thanks to Dr. Leighton Arrain, the able chairman of the local Climate Change Conference Steering Committee, Mr. Antonio Maynard, and all other steering committee members for accepting joint responsibility for ensuring an overall successful staging of this important meeting. Thanks to all of you. We have been fortunate to be here today and to have the support of so many of you. And we are additionally fortunate to have the support of the business sector here in St. Kitts and Nevis that is sensitive to our national needs, goals, and aspirations. The National Commission for UNESCO, the Ministry of Education and Information, and the government wish to thank PetroCaribe, Kittitian Hill, Windsor University, and CNC Superfoods for their partnership with us as we seek to bring together policymakers, thinkers, and experts to arrive at some regional common ground on ethical principles for climate change. Colleagues, we are extremely delighted that you have come to St. Kitts and Nevis from near and far. We thank you for wanting to be part of this important conference and for saying yes to the opportunity to be here in paradise. Thank you very much and welcome.
Thank you, Minister Carty. Now we will have some greetings from Dr. Iwe Oftenhogel with the Frederick Ebert Foundation, the major sponsor.
On behalf of the Regional Office of the Friedrich Ebert Foundation for the Caribbean, I would like to welcome you to our conference on climate change adaptation in the Caribbean, science, ethics, and politics. The Friedrich Ebert Foundation is a political foundation from Germany, close to social democracy, and we have a rather long track record of cooperation in the Caribbean. Today, we are still active in the Dominican Republic, in Haiti, in Cuba, in Jamaica, and a couple of years ago we also had more activities in the Eastern Caribbean. There was an office for some years in Barbados. Some of you may remember that. Our participation here is due to the notion that we try in the regional office to bridge a little bit the gap between the English and the Spanish-speaking and French-speaking Caribbean. And this is why we contribute with bringing representatives from French and Spanish-speaking Caribbean to this conference. As for the topic of the conference, the Friedrich-Ebert-Stiftung historically is known more for its relationship to workers' movements and workers' parties, and we're certainly more known for our engagement in social justice, social policies, peaceful conflict management and solution, and the attempt to devise strategies for a more transparent and democratic process of globalization. But during the last years, we have also taken on the issues of environment and climate change. Others here know better and will enlarge further on the enormous problems the climate change causes for the region. I just wanted to mention that our approach to the issue of climate change and environment is not so much from the scientific or technical side of the matter. We approach it explicitly from a socio-political point of view. In other words, we consider climate change to be a symptom of fundamental imbalances in the world, or in more clear terms, we see it as a result of a development model that has failed. In other words, what we need, and we try to contribute to that, we need to develop a more sustainable growth model. We shouldn't leave it any longer to the conventional economists, but should bring in strongly the question of green economy. And we need more education for and more participation of the people concerning questions of environment and climate change. As for our conference, I hope we'll have a fruitful dialogue, and I hope also that we make some headway to find smart solutions for the many problems we are facing. Finally, I wanted to thank the Kingston office of the UNESCO in particular, and also the colleagues from St. Kitts for the good cooperation in the preparation of the conference. I congratulate the UNESCO and the government of St. Kitts to the organization of the conference, and I hope that we can contribute modestly to its success. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Aftenhögel. And now for greetings from His Excellency Dr. Davison Hepburn. He is the President of UNESCO General Conference.
Being native to the Bahamas, I have long known that the Caribbean community shares a common awareness of the dramatic consequences of climate change, along with a common concern for ensuring development in the area and a sense of solidarity that may inspire many of us. It is thus a great honor and a pleasure for me as President of the UNESCO General Conference to address you, this eminent audience, gathered here this morning in St. Kitts, Nevis, to develop a constructive dialogue between Caribbean countries and formulate a policy response to perhaps what's the most critical challenge currently facing the region and indeed the planet as a whole. I need hardly emphasize, in the view of the challenges of climate change, why this meeting here today is not merely relevant but absolutely necessary. It seems all too obvious that current scientific knowledge leads to just one conclusion, whether we refer to recent estimates of rising sea levels, meteorological models of changing weather patterns, or the information about vulnerability and resilience from the social sciences. That conclusion is a stark one. The Caribbean region will experience serious negative impacts from climate change. In particular, small island developing states are among the countries most vulnerable to sea level rise, and not just when they are low-lying. I'm certain you've heard this over and over again, but it bears repeating. Tourism is vital to the regional economy. The fixed tourism infrastructures are often highly vulnerable. Similarly, agricultural productivity may be strongly affected by factors such as temperature change, by salt water, by intrusion, and also by modified precipitation patterns. The scientific conclusions lead directly to a practical requirement to act, starting here and now. Ladies and gentlemen, I therefore expect a great deal from this meeting, which will, with a view to fostering further discussion on climate change science, ethics, and adaptation, will have three main objectives. First, extending knowledge to all those who need it, supporting the work of the Caribbean expert networks, reinforcing scientific cooperation in order to enhance participation in world science. Work in this area will enable UNESCO to better understand Caribbean concerns. It will also support the response in the Caribbean itself. Besides science, which we doubtlessly need to inform us on what may happen, we need to draw on ethics and dialogue to define what should be undertaken. Hence, the second main purpose of this conference is to identify specific ethical challenges in the areas of science and adaptation, building on the earlier work of the Royal Commission on Ethics at Scientific Knowledge and Technology. By identifying key issues and priorities, we can hope to design appropriate national and local policies that can be developed, can be pursued at regional level with UNESCO's expertise and support. Last but not least, thanks to your participation and commitment, I hope that this meeting will contribute to the elaboration of a shared Caribbean vision and a response to international climate change negotiations, debates, and policy. This vision should not be a parochial one or purely regional. Many of the issues that we will be discussing are common to everyone, small island developing states in particular, and indeed shared with other vulnerable countries, notably in Africa. A shared Caribbean vision can and should be a component of a shared global vision to rise to the challenge of climate change. For, and I quote, "It is better than you think," stated by Mr. Auden in his work Consider This and In Our Time, written in 1930. If you will allow me a second quotation from another poem by Auden, which chimes menacingly with the first. "The sky is darkening like a stain. Something is going to fall like rain, and it won't be flowers." And this was taken from his work, The Two. Now, somebody said to me the other day, you shouldn't be so negative, but I think this is what we need in order to understand what we are faced with. Looking beyond this conference, I wish to also emphasize the value of education, extremely important, which, as you know, is for me as UNESCO a priority. With regard to the scientific, technological, and ethical challenges